host, sabrinasalvati. Doobie-doobie-doo. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. All right. Happy Thursday, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Sab's podcast. I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. If you're new, I do want to let you know that Sab's podcast is a part of Revolutionary Blackout Network. You can catch me there on Thursdays for the Sabby and JB show, and you can catch me here on Tuesday, Thursday, and Sundays. I want to give a shout out to everyone watching on YouTube, Rockfin, Twitter, and Rumble. And welcome back, fam. We have a big show tonight. Tonight's theme is, Are They Insane? And I think you'll ask yourself that question as well as we go through these stories. It's crazy things that are happening right now. We do have a big special guest tonight. Before we bring him in, I do want to go ahead and show you what we are discussing tonight, ladies and gents. So let's go ahead and show that thumbnail, shall we? Hey. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we are discussing Tucker Carlson turns on Trump administration. This is a big story. I don't want to give too much away, but the fact that Tucker Carlson is speaking against the Trump administration, that really does send alarm bells. And yes, this does have to do with the death of Charlie Kirk. So I think you're going to find this interesting, what he has to say about the actions that the Trump administration is taking, and that he doesn't feel this is the right thing to do. So we'll get into that. We're also going to discuss, if you have not heard by now, free speech, I told you, is under attack. Jimmy Kimmel, someone who I actually am not a fan of, to be honest with you. I don't think Jimmy Kimmel's that funny. But Jimmy Kimmel was just fired, apparently for the comments that he made about Charlie Kirk. I don't really think that's why he was fired. We're going to get into who owns ABC. We're going to talk a little bit about these big media companies and where they stand, in particular when it comes to geopolitics and their agenda, so that you'll understand what this is really about. We're also going to discuss Kash Patel is grilled by Thomas Massie. Shout out to Thomas Massie for doing the damn thing. Kash looks scared in that picture, and he should. He should. What is he trying to hide? We're also discussing this story here. His name is Trey Reed. He was just found hanging on campus. He was hanging from a tree on campus. This story has a lot of alarm bells around it, ladies and gentlemen. This is not the first hanging story in multiple years. There are others that have happened. We got to get into the police cover-up that's happening here. And last but not least, our special guest tonight is Omar Zahzah. I can't wait to talk to him. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive in, folks. If you haven't had a chance to do so, go ahead and smash that like button. If you're new, don't forget to like, sub, and share, just like a Care Bear. All righty. Let's go ahead and introduce our special guest. His name is Omar Zahzah. He is a writer, poet, organizer of Lebanese and Palestinian descent. He's an assistant professor at Arab and Muslim ethnicities and diaspora studies at San Francisco State University. And he is the author of a new book titled Terms of Servitude: Zionism, Silicon Valley, and digital settler colonialism in the Palestine liberation struggle. Let's go ahead and bring him in. Omar, we just need you to turn on your camera if you can, and I'll go ahead and bring you in. Welcome, Omar. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. Great to be here.
So I'm excited to talk to you. I want to show everyone your book here. Here is the book. It's called Terms of Servitude. And of course, it's by Omar. Omar, your focus is primarily on the digital platforms, the tech industry, and how they have worked to silence not just Palestinian voices, but to also aid in censorship around that particular issue. What did you find in your research of doing this? And in particular, is this something that you noticed after October 7th, or has this been going on prior to that?
Thank you so much for that question. So I found a lot of things. I think a lot of us relate to social media. We're talking on YouTube right now. It's probably going to be cross-posted to all of the digital platforms that you noted in your introduction, right? We tend to connect to social media as this site that allows us to propose alternatives to the legacy corporate media messaging, right? So there's always been this element of we can have an alternative voice represented by taking to these platforms. My research was about how Palestinians turned to digital platforms like, the meta platforms, Facebook, Instagram, like, Twitter, formerly now X, and turned to it and successfully advanced their narratives about the actual character of the Palestinian struggle as being a outgrowth of ongoing settler colonialism, right? And that when this success was just a little too prominent to the point where even corporate legacy media narratives began to be noticeably challenged, you started to have mass censorship on these platforms. Now, I began looking at this in 2021, around the time of what some of your viewers may remember as the uprisings in Sheikh Jarrah, the occupied East Jerusalem neighborhood. This was the standout moment of what I was looking at, where people started to talk about how what had previously been a routine experience of Palestinians facing eviction orders suddenly were able to not just challenge that potential outcome, but actually challenge the very narratives about how they had been represented through a savvy and sophisticated use of digital platforms, to such an extent that they began to be platformed by legacy corporate media and, bring their narratives to the fore in that aspect as well. But unfortunately, they were a little too successful, and we began to see mass censorship by platforms like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. And, again, staying in this 2021, 2022 moment, this censorship was so vast that this was the first time that corporate legacy media really began to poke behind the curtain and say, okay, what's going on? This is so collective, in its scope, that there has to be something else happening. And of course, you have these big tech companies saying, well, no, this is a glitch. This is the result of an error in moderation. So we'll do better, right? Now it's become so routine to have anti-Palestinian content moderation, which is what my book looks at, right? So it was definitely prior to the latest genocide in Gaza. But unfortunately, what has happened is that since that genocide, this anti-Palestinian content moderation has been so normalized that it's become par for the course. And it's become par for the course at a moment where the stakes are high, because a post being able to be seen can be the difference between life and death, right? So even as I finished the book under slightly different circumstances from when I began it, because I do think particularly with the Sheikh Jarrah uprisings, with the narrative shifts that felt so palpable at that time, there was, I don't know if optimism is the right word, but there was this sense that a change is happening and this censorship can only go so far. Now we've seen these companies take this and run with it, and they basically incorporated it as a standard operating practice. So I do think that that's something that needs to continue to be challenged and called out. But I'd say the normalization of these censorship practices is what has unfortunately evolved at a time where its implications are the most dire, which is a time of genocide.
This is correct. I have seen a number of Palestinian accounts on Twitter all of a sudden just disappear. Palestinian organization accounts disappear on Twitter. It's interesting. This is something that should have been in the Twitter files, to be honest with you. I've seen that censorship as well on Facebook from a number of accounts. Where do you think the pressure came from?
Well, it's no secret that the Israeli government has been very attuned to the impact that social media can have on hearts and minds, right? For example, the genesis of what became, the kind of ongoing attempt to ban and sort of, de-autonomize TikTok, or at least basically fully control it. That began with a flurry of these comments about how this is promoting quote unquote Hamas propaganda, how it's turning the youth to be more pro-Palestine, and of course the ADL Greenblatt came out and said we have a TikTok problem, that infamous quote, right? So it's no secret that the Israeli government, that Zionist institutions are very savvy about how social media is part and parcel of broader narrative shifts. So there's been a lot of pressure from Israel proper, but at the same time, I think it's really important to note, and this is part of the distinction that I try to draw in my book, these companies are also willingly engaging in this censorship because they're out for their bottom line, right? They are not interested, despite all their propaganda, and especially the propaganda that we were awash with from the 2010s and on about how social media is revolutionary, how it creates, counter publics, new democratic opportunities. They are interested in their bottom line. They're interested in the outsized hegemony that they are able to practice on our broader social lives. And they recognize that the best way to protect that hegemony, the best way to protect their bottom line, their corporate interests, their broader political alliances, is to work hand in glove with the Israeli settler colonial project. So it's not just an issue of individuals lobbying, right? Some people will even say, well, look at, the number of Israelis who are, on the board of companies like Meta, or look at the number of, ex-Israeli government officials who work in Meta Post, for example. But even the decision to have those people fill those positions is a direct choice on the part of those companies. So I think we really need to be aware of the fact that what we're dealing with is a conscious choice by these companies to partner, with Israeli settler colonialism, genocide, and apartheid, and that the anti-Palestinian concept moderation we see is a direct outgrowth of that choice.
That's 100% correct. I don't know if everyone is aware, but it was reported the other day that it appears that the owner of Oracle, who I believe is also a billionaire, is purchasing TikTok. He's also a Zionist. I called out the CBS merger here with Barry Weiss.
Mm-hmm.
And I, like I said before, the Free Press, like that outlet that she started, is not like it was like this wasn't like a top-notch like outlet that was out there for her to receive this opportunity. It's very clear the message that they want to send across, that they really want to control the messages that are being sent on these platforms, especially when it comes to Palestine resistance and of course, especially Gaza. And what is really interesting to me is when you get into the situation in the West Bank, which Hamas is not in the West Bank. And if you notice, you never really hear them mention that. You never hear them mention the West Bank because they can't say, well, they're trying to fight Hamas. Hamas is not in the West Bank. But yet at the same time, you do have settlers that are going into the West Bank and they're stealing homes from Palestinians. We've all seen the videos, and I've seen them for years. So that didn't start after October 7th. And I think that the big concern is that this message got out to too many people, and Israel has really been exposed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's 100% correct. We have this kind of normalization of censorship, but there's a certain point to where, exactly as you're saying, the images are out there. There's really nothing left in terms of any more information that we need to be able to see this for what it is, right? This is a genocide. This is a colonial project. Palestinians have been saying this for years, for decades. They continue to say this now, and they continue to heroically try to broadcast in real time and get their footage, their recordings, and their messages out to the rest of us in order to inspire change. This has always been about these big companies capitulating to the Israeli mandate to silence, eliminate, and erase Palestinians, and really the very idea of Palestine, from the physical and the digital terrain. There's, there's never been a reason to accept any of these excuses, but now more than ever, there's really nothing left that we need to see. There's nothing left that we need to hear in order to act and to resist this for what it is. So, it's unfortunate that, these companies are locking down and continuing to move in this direction, but we need to continue to resist it. And we need to continue to also be savvy about the fact that what we're seeing is the collusion of corporate capitalism and imperialism with the latest example of settler colonialism in our modern day and age, which is the Zionist project.
Yeah, I always tell people this is the final stage of colonialism, right? I mean, Netanyahu's very clear about the Greater Israel project and what they want to accomplish. There was an article here. I want to highlight this that you wrote for Electronic Intifada, which we love over here. They do great work. Dell's complicity in Israel's genocide. So you wrote this article July 22nd of this year. This is another one. The tech companies, like tech companies like Dell, etc., how they are complicit in all of this.
Yeah. And, working on that piece, first of all, there's so many ways in which Dell is complicit with what I found in that piece, right? Their direct collaboration with the Israeli military, with the government, with different branches of the military, as well as their use. This was one of I think the most shocking things, but also a detail that made a lot of sense is that, when we talk about the coordinated kill lists that are made through AI generation, right? We're talking about things like the lavender and the gospel that was broken by, 972, right? Those lists are actually powered through Dell's hardware. So, we focus a lot on the cloud storage, and the cloud storage infrastructure, but it's also the physical infrastructure that tech companies provide that make the running of these programs possible. And, this kind of led me to, well, I shouldn't say it made me think it for the first time, but it really affirmed this idea that big tech as an industry is so entrenched in Israeli settler colonialism and now the genocide that the real surprise should be if we find a company is not when we find more evidence of another big tech company doing it, right? And of course, this is part of what, this is exactly what Francesca Albanese, exposed in her report, right? Which is specifically on big tech complicity in, the settler colonial project that is now also culminating in this latest genocide. And I don't know exactly what the next point of pressure is going to be, but I completely agree with the findings of that report that we need to start to act under the mandate that these companies know exactly what they're doing and they need to face the same kind of accountability as we would give, to an actual foreign government that is engaging in these practices, right? That's one of the takeaways of the report. We need to think about the decision to do business under these conditions, not only to be, to ignore it, but to actually use your products and your expertise to fortify those as something that is legally sanctionable. We need to actually continue to agitate and to think about how to start bringing pressure to big tech as an industry, because it is so awash in the blood of Palestinians at this moment in time, right? That, again, the surprise would be when we find a good outlier, right? I don't think we need any more evidence about how corrupt this industry is, but unfortunately, they keep coming forward with new receipts for us to find.
Yeah, I think a lot of people may not be aware how the tech industry is involved in the genocide in Gaza. And I think, that announcement from Francesca, I think that really woke a lot of people up. And you see the response to that was to put sanctions on her. How do you feel about the current censorship that's taken place right now? Like right after the death of Charlie Kirk, it just seems like I said, I've never seen the government respond to someone's death this way. I feel like they're using it as an excuse. But how do you feel about the extremes that are being taken now to silence voices?
Yeah, great question. And I was just talking about this, on another podcast recently, I know it's, kind of the order of the day. I am not totally surprised. I think that, seeing the experiences that people have had in terms of facing the workplace censure that they have, for giving critical messaging, seeing people who are trying to push back on the very standard script that they're apparently expected to give, right, within these very rigid, fine lines, instead of doing what I think we need to do in this moment, which is really to challenge this language of political violence on its face, right? A lot of people have tried to advance the conversation of, well, we're supposed to condemn political violence. Our very society, our country runs and thrives on political violence. There's so many different forms of political violence that we're not condemning. What we're, being expected to do is to critique this one act while we have an entire genocide happening, while we have, communities who are brutalized by police violence, while we have poverty, while we have medical inequality. All of these different things are forms of political violence. If we really want to talk about political violence, we need to be able to actually talk about it in a structural sense. Of course, that's not the conversation we're supposed to have. It's almost as though this, discourse is kind of a bait and switch, where there's a little bit of bait for people to take when they actually say what they think. If it's, straying from the script that we're supposed to be given, then they're subjected to all of this censorship, right? So it's not surprising, but it definitely reveals the kind of partisan character and the bad faith of these conversations. And I think it shows the really coordinated nature of how censorship works. Even when we get into different topics, when you're still thinking about questions of structural oppression, that's something you're not supposed to be able to entertain. And the platforms that are very savvy to the right, just as they're savvy to all the current, forms of power, are going to make no haste in making sure that you don't have space, on their products to speak it.
I want to ask you about this one. This is chapter 9 in your book. Why big tech's control of social media can't stop anti-colonial resistance. Can we talk a little bit about that? Because I think that it seems like the powers that be feel as though if they control the platforms, or if they control just the message that is getting out, that then things will move in their favor. Why do you believe that these actions will not stop colonial resistance, anti-colonial resistance?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, first, very broadly, I think they're never going to stop anti-colonial resistance, because it's, the very concept that animates the overall spirit of the book. Once consciousness is gained in general, it's something that can't be taken away. Sure, you can delete a post, you can ban an account, you can burn a book, you can do all these things, but you can't change the fact that, people have been swayed. Now, in this chapter in particular, I was looking at what unfortunately has become a very common phenomenon, right? Which is the distribution of videos by individuals in the Israeli occupation forces who document themselves engaging in all kinds of acts of, heinous torture of Palestinians, the destruction of civilian infrastructure in this really cruel and sadistic way, right? And I was contrasting that to the videos you see from resistance forces, right? Documenting, for example, the striking of military targets, right? The planting of devices on tanks. And I was saying, look at the contrast that you have here. On the one hand, you have this colonial military force that is proudly documenting its sadism and torture. And on the other hand, you have these, military resistance forces that are documenting their coordinated targeting of military infrastructure and targets. And I was saying in that chapter in particular, these disparate uses of social media demonstrate perfectly the colonial character of the Palestinian struggle. It's very clear when you look at that content, who is the colonizer and who is the colonized, right? That said, I do think that there's also, in general, a broader point to that term, because in general, all forms of anti-colonial resistance cannot be stopped, right? They'll never be stopped by censoring a platform. They'll never be stopped by censoring a type of media, because the savviness of the colonized, will always outwit the control and the power of the colonizer.
Yeah, I hear you. It's like they forget that, like, especially if you look back in the day, like the civil rights movement, for example, there was no social media during that time, but people can still organize. So even censoring those platforms doesn't stop people from organizing and getting out in the streets. It's like you have to take it back to old school. And speaking of organizing, I wanted to get your take on 11 demands. My producer came up with this idea of 11 demands, and he was
Mhm.
saying that we really do need to have some type of a movement to happen, right? Because we're seeing that the politicians, in particular, a lot of them are serving big business, big money interests, and of course, the genocide. Like, to be honest. And one of the things that he points out here in 11 demands, it says real change starts with demands. Healthcare for all, a minimum standard of living for everyone in the wars. These are just a couple of them, and it's referred to as MCDS, money corruptions, demands, and solutions. Um,
Mhm.
I'll show you the 11 demands here. Fix big money in politics and government, healthcare for all, a minimum standard of living for everyone in the wars. So this is a really big one, I think, for a lot of us. Racial and criminal justice reform, respond to the climate emergency, reject censorship, another big one, immigration reform, an election system we can trust, and revamp taxation and funding. And last but not least, democratize the enterprise. What do you think of the idea of 11 demands, like for real democracy, is starting a movement around something like this, where people can just focus on the demands and not focus on a political party that they are a part of, for example? What do you think about that?
I mean, I think I feel like it's unfortunate that my reaction is a bit of surprise. Wow, you mean concrete goals that people can that center the people, as opposed to thinking about the corporate interests of one party or another of this so-called duopoly that we have, right? Um, I think what one of the main issues we've seen for years has been precisely the absence of concrete, actionable goals that are going to benefit the best interests of the general public. And I think the more that we can start to inject that into actual political practice, as opposed to having these personality wars, or as opposed to having ultimately this so-called two-party system that is really just all locked in on capitalism, imperialism, and genocide, right? The better.
Yeah, when I would look at the Gaza situation, and it's the same under both administrations, in the sense that the genocide started under the Biden-Harris administration, and Kamala didn't want to withhold, said she would not withhold weapons from Israel. And we had the Trump administration, who also is not withholding weapons from Israel. And it's very clear, like both parties are all bought in for Israel. There may be some politicians that are a part of those parties that don't support it, but the parties as a whole, they do support what is happening with the U.S. Israel relationship. And some of the politicians have come forward and been very, very blatant that they do support the killing of Palestinian people. One in particular, Congressman, I don't know how he got in there, but Congress member Randy Fine has been very nasty with his remarks about the Palestinian people. So it's just, we're looking at a political system that is bought, that is very corrupt. And even those who went into those parties to try to do something particularly different, they end up either going along with it, or they give like a milk toast response, or they're pushed out. And so that's why we ask about focusing on demands and creating a different type of movement.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I think with that, you start to find new ways to chip away at just the bipartisan entrenchment, really, in death, dispossession, exploitation, and extraction. Both domestically and internationally, right? Um, the fact that you can have such dehumanization across the board is precisely because of the imperialist status quo that basically is the motor engine of American politics. And so the more we can start to chip away at that and challenge that, and also try to find real solutions that benefit people as opposed to maintaining the hierarchical situation that we have now. Again, the better.
Awesome. Omar, where can people find your work?
So people can, I'd say keep a lookout on publications like Electronic Intifada and Mondeweiss. Follow Project Censored, who's the Censored Press is a co-publisher of my book. And I'm also on X at Dr. Omar Zahzah, Facebook and Instagram at Omar Zahzah.
Awesome. Omar, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your time. Pleasure.
Bye. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Omar Zahzah. Awesome, awesome. Check out his book if you get the opportunity to do so. Again, the name of the book, I'll bring it back up here. It is called Terms of Servitude, Zionism, Silicon Valley, Digital Settler Colonialism in Palestinian Liberation Struggle. So definitely check that out. We got to focus on all of the pieces, and that includes tech as well. All right, ladies and gents, we're going to dive into our next stories. Again, tonight's theme is, are they insane? And I just want you to ask it just like that. Are they insane? Let's ask that question. Okay, let's get to some of the comments and then we'll skedoodle. Thank you for the super chat, Trey Harden. I need a Sabby and Candace collab episode, and I'd pay $100 super chat for Sabby, Candace, and Joy Reid, or Sabby, Candace, and Tucker. Why, Trey? Why? Why do people want this to happen? Tell me why, Jay. Tell me why. Thank you. Wandy, who's been a member for 2 months, says, I'm on time. Shout out to What Democracy. Charlie Kirk vigil on Boston Common tonight. Protesters were almost run over by a scooter and cops kettled them. US keeps winning. And I think those emojis there mean it's a clown show. What Democracy has been a member for 7 months. Thank you. Thank you for the super chat, Sanka. Hi, Sabby. Can you get some background or update on the Sudan genocide? I'm already on it, Sanka. I'm already on it. I do have a guest that's going to be coming on soon to talk about that. And thank you, Vilma, for the super chat. We are witnessing the obvious manifestations of a dying U.S. Western hegemony. Yeah, I agree with you. It is happening. Shout out to Kimi, who's been a member for 11 months. Huge props to Sabby for platforming Palestinian voices to speak on Palestine. Thank you. Damon says, America ain't a free nation anymore. You got that right. And shout out to Black Tie for the super sticker. Thank you so much. Hey, hey, hey. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's keep it moving, can we? Let's keep this show on the road. We're moving into the next story. Are they insane? So, Kash Patel testified in front of the House Judiciary Committee, and I think we're going to give props here to Thomas Massie for pressing him in the way that he did. I expect the Democrat politicians to press him, but Thomas Massie has kind of gone rogue against, I guess, away from his own party when it comes to different issues, when it comes to sending money to Israel, when it comes to AIPAC, and also when it comes to these Epstein files. And I think he really grilled Kash Patel here. You guys got to see this. In my opinion, based on what I've seen from this testimony from Kash Patel, I think it is very clear this guy is lying through his teeth. And I think he really wants us to believe that Jeffrey Epstein didn't traffic anybody. Like, I really do believe this. That's why I say, like, are they insane? I think he believes that people will buy this. So let's go ahead and get into it. Thomas Massie on the mic.
Documents I'd like to introduce into the record. The first one is Jeffrey Epstein's sick story played out for years in plain sight. And Acosta is quoted in here saying, I was told Epstein belonged to intelligence and to leave it alone. The second document is entitled, What Epstein's Bodyguard Warned About His CIA Connections. The third document is from Fox Digital. It's titled, Epstein's Private Calendar Reveals Planned Meetings with Obama Admin Official CIA Chief. And the last document is Wall Street Journal article that highlights Ehud Barak's 36 meetings with Jeffrey Epstein. He was the former Prime Minister of Israel and head of military intelligence for Israel. It may have held that title when he met Epstein, and then, yes.
Without objection, the gentleman will hold for a second. The gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one UC request. This is Judge Engelmeyer's decision from August in U.S. versus Epstein, stating the government's 100,000 pages of Epstein files dwarfs the 70-odd pages of Epstein grand jury materials.
Without objection, the gentleman from Kentucky is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Patel, I watched some of your Senate hearing yesterday when Senator Kennedy asked you, you've seen most of the files, who, if anyone, did Epstein traffic these women to besides himself? You replied, according to the transcript, there is no credible information that he trafficked them to anyone else. You also said somewhere in the hearing, and
pause for a second. Does everybody hear that? So according to Kash Patel, he says there is no credible information that Jeffrey Epstein trafficked women to anyone else. Do people really believe this? You mean to tell me that all those women that went back and forth between that island, and don't forget about his residence at Palm Beach as well, you mean to tell me that they were all just there for Jeffrey? And even if they were all just there for Jeffrey, which I do not believe, it's still trafficking, and they were still underage. So Kash Patel is now coming forward with the lie of, oh no, there's no evidence to show that he trafficked them to anybody. So listen to what Thomas Massey says here.
Here today that the problem is that the case files are constrained by limited search warrants from 2006 to 2007, and that the non-prosecution agreement hamstrung future investigations. Those constraints only apply to Southern District of Florida. They do not apply to Southern District of New York, the location of the 2019 sex trafficking indictment, which produced many things, including a series of FD 302 documents. According to victims who cooperated with the FBI in that investigation, these documents in FBI possession, your possession, detail at least 20 men, including Mr. Jess Staley, CEO of Barclays Bank, who Jeffrey Epstein trafficked victims to, victims including minors such as Virginia Roberts Ufree, may she rest in peace. That list also includes at least 19 other individuals, one Hollywood producer worth a few $100 million, one royal prince, one high-profile individual in the music industry, one very prominent banker, one high-profile government official, one high-profile former politician, one owner of a car company in Italy, one rock star, one magician, at least 6 billionaires, including a billionaire from Canada.
Oh, drop the beat. Dance with me. Dance with me. Drop the beat. In the street. I usually don't drop the beat this early in the stream, but you know, we had to really do it. Listen to it again. Let's hear who these people are. This is really important.
Worth a few $100 million, one royal prince, one high-profile individual in the music industry, one very prominent banker, one high-profile government official, one high-profile former politician, one owner of a car company in Italy, one rock star, one magician, at least 6 billionaires, including a billionaire from Canada.
Okay, if I were to make a guess, I would probably assume the magician is probably David Copperfield. And I say this because he has been mentioned multiple times in articles by Whitney Webb. He has been on Jeffrey Epstein's jet on that island multiple times. He said magician. It's not like we know a lot of magicians out there. So if I were to assume, I would say probably David Copperfield. He said 6 billionaires. Does everybody see why you are not getting the list? Does everybody understand now why they don't want to release the names? 6 billionaires. And I'm pretty sure those 6 billionaires probably donate to political campaigns. Wouldn't be surprised if those billionaires donate to both political parties. And then people would have to account for, oh my God, you took money from that guy? You know, it's a whole process to this thing. He said a Hollywood producer. Doesn't surprise me. Are you surprised? Put it all together, folks. One former politician. There may be others. All of these people are crooked. All of these people are corrupt, and they all roll in the same circles. And that's why you are not getting that list. That's why Trump said nothing to see here. Pam Bondi said, whoopsie, had files on my desk, but now they're gone. Kash Patel said, there's nothing there in those files. This is a cover up, and it's been one since day one. They're not going to leak the names of the 6 billionaires for sure. Hell to the no. I wonder who the rock star is. Could be someone you like. You never know. So you got a rock star, a magician, a Hollywood producer, 6 billionaires on an island. What could go wrong? Kudos to Thomas Massey for saying that. Because like I said, he ain't really had to do all that, but he is doing it. And against the wishes of most of the politicians in his political party. And he's doing it. Oh my God. If I was Kash Patel, I would be really embarrassed, but he's not.
You know these people exist in the FBI files, the files that you control. I don't know exactly who they are, but the FBI does. Have you launched any investigations into any of these people? And have you seen these 302 documents?
Sir, I have asked my FBI agents to review the entirety of the Epstein files and bring forth any credible information. And we're working with Congress not only to divulge that information and produce it to you, but any investigations that arise from any credible investigation will be brought. There have been no new materials brought to me launching a new indictment.
So is the loophole here, or is it your assertion that these victims aren't credible, that the 302s maybe didn't produce credible statements that rise to a probable cause?
It's not my assertion, sir. It's the assertion of 2 different United States attorneys' offices from 3 separate administrations who investigated those same materials in lifetime.
It's not my assertion, sir. It's the assertion of 3 administrations who investigated the terms at that time. Who put this guy in charge? Let's all remember Kash Patel. As much as we've complained about Kash Patel, right? As much as we complained about, I always forget his name, Pete Hegseth. As much as we complained about a lot of these people, guess what? They receive votes from both parties. Kash Patel is a puppet. You think Kash Patel is going to go against these billionaires? No.
302 documents in the FBI's possession?
They reviewed all that. Yes, sir.
And so have you reviewed those 302 documents where the victims name the people who victimized them?
If I personally know, but the FBI has.
So how can you sit here and in front of the Senate and say there are no names?
I said
I named one today.
I said we are not in the practice at the Department of Justice FBI of releasing victims' names. That is not what we do. We are also not in the habit of releasing incredible information. That's not what we do. But multiple authorities have looked at the entirety of what we have.
Okay, I got to move.
Man, bye. We are not in the business of releasing names. What are you in the business of doing? Because let me think about this for a second. The FBI didn't have any problem releasing names when they went after activists. Did they have any problems releasing names when they went after Black Panther members? When they took out Fred Hampton, they didn't have any problem releasing names. Because you see, when it comes to them trying to fight against the everyday average Joe Schmo, they have no problem telling people their names. You just don't want to release names when it's attached to wealth, when it's attached to people who are corrupt, elite, people who are making political decisions. That's when you don't want to release the names. So what is your purpose, Kash? What is the purpose of the FBI? You can't release the names. He just told you who some of them are. You can't release. I mean, you could put two and two together if he said one prince, which I would assume is the Saudi prince, if I had to make a guess. I don't think it's just Prince Andrew. Let's start talking some real talk. But they're not in the business of that. What exactly is the business of the FBI?
On here, were you present when the AG had the White House event when she released the binders to the social media influencers?
I was, yes.
So if you're willing to meet with social media influencers who stood to benefit from the sensational and sad stories of these victims, will you meet with the victims as well?
The FBI will meet with anyone who has new information.
Will you personally meet with them?
Hold on. Did you hear what he just said? I want you to catch what he just said here. This part's important. Listen to what Kash Patel says.
Stories of these victims, will you meet with the victims as well?
The FBI will meet with anyone who has new information.
Will you personally?
Will meet with anyone that has new information. The key word there is new. So if any of the victims want to come forward, but let's say they already gave their story to the press, but they want to go speak to the FBI, if it's not new information, you see that? So pay attention to the vocabulary that's being used. If it's not new information, it sounds like to me, they're not really trying to talk to you. He continues to press him though. Let's go back a little bit here.
Will meet with anyone who has new information.
Will you personally meet with them?
The FBI and the professionals who are handling the cases will.
Were you instructed?
That's a no. Like, what? The FBI investigators who are handling the cases will. So that's a no. He will not. What the hell is Kash Patel doing in that position? What is he doing? What is he being paid to do? Why are we paying Kash to do nothing? Ask that question, guys. I don't know. Seems like to me, Kash Patel is just sitting in a seat. He's just a puppet. He ain't making no decisions. He's just doing what his handlers tell him to do.
As well.
Were you instructed that it was important to release the documents to the Oversight Committee on the day of my introduction of the discharge petition to release these files?
I don't know what day that was, so no.
Well, they were released that day, and there were victims' names who weren't redacted because they were in such a rush, and the victims are not happy about that. Have you investigated any of the CIA connections? Have you seen the CIA file on Jeffrey Epstein? And if you wanted to see it, would they show it to you?
Well, I can speak for the FBI, and that's presuming there's a CIA case file. And I've reviewed everything that the interagency, not I, the FBI, that was provided to us.
Would you be willing to look at the CIA file on Jeffrey Epstein?
If there is such a file, and if it has not already been turned over to the FBI will look at any new investigative leads.
Pause here. You see the look that he's given the camera here? This guy is lying through his teeth. So here's the thing. Here's the catch. He said, if there is a CIA file, that gives room for doubt. You see, the words that people use, especially these political puppets, the words that they use actually do matter. There's a difference between saying, just answering his question straightforward and saying, yes, I'll be willing to look at the files, and saying, if a CIA file exists, then I will look at it. When you say if it exists, it leaves room for doubt. When you leave room for doubt, people have the option and the opportunity to basically say, oh, it probably doesn't even exist. It's probably not even real. It's probably not even a thing. Look at him. He's looking right into the camera. You know, I don't understand how this guy sleeps at night.
Have you made any progress on the pipe bomb investigation January 6th? And have you made any progress on the motive of the Las Vegas shooter?
As to the first, it's an ongoing investigation, and we have made progress. As to the second, sir, I'll have to get back to you.
Yeah, man. Look at here, fam. Kash Patel ain't doing his job. That's really what this comes down to. He is not doing his job. Check this out. He was confronted. A random woman chased down Kash Patel, yelling at him and calling him cuck for Israel. Watch this.
Patel, the American people want to know, how does it feel to be a cuck for Israel? Answer the question.
We're seeing and hearing what the FBI is doing on a daily basis.
You're claiming to serve the American people. You're serving Israel. Does it feel to be Israel's bitch? You don't care about kids getting raped. The American people want to know.
He's a patriot.
Patriot? Rape kids? Is patriotism to you?
Thank you for your service, though.
Kids?
You're an idiot.
I'm an idiot? Really?
Yes, you are.
I didn't say anything.
He says, I didn't say anything. So do you see this? For all the people over the years that said we have to protect the children, all of a sudden just go back to sleep because Donald Trump says, oh, there's nothing to see there. Pam Bondi says there's nothing to see there. And all these people just go back to sleep. Let me tell you what's really going on, folks. Check this out. Did you know that this happened? Shout out to James Lee here. This is a list of the 250 United States legislators who took part in 50 states One Israel conference to sell out America in exchange for foreign cash. Shame. You guys see this? Look at all of these representatives here, bipartisan, of course. All of these representatives that participated in this event here. Does anyone else find this weird? This is an image of the 250 U.S. state legislators currently in Israel. Look. So let me break it down for you, make it very clear, okay? It's not just about the fact that there's billionaires involved in those files. It's not just about the fact that there's former politicians and probably some current politicians, to be honest with you. We want to keep it real. Screw the magician who isn't even a magician anymore, basically. It's not even just about that. It's about the fact that Epstein was a Mossad agent, that Epstein was working with Israel. So if they really get into the thick of the Epstein files and reveal what we all should know and should see, that would also implicate Israel. And then, I don't know. I mean, they're already trying to excuse Israel for the genocide. It'd be kind of hard to excuse them for the genocide and for trafficking kids. That's a lot going on, right? So put two and two together. And also, don't be surprised if there are Israeli politicians that could be named in those Epstein files. This is really what's going on. This is what it's all about. Now, the United States has other countries that are also an ally. France, Germany, UK, list goes on and on and on. You never see the US go to such extremes for those other allies as they do for Israel. And that right there should tell you everything that you need to know. Never see them bending over their backwards like, oh, we love me some France. You never see them saying, we will always be an ally to Germany. We will always be an ally to the UK. It's Israel. And we all know why. We all know why. So I ask, are they insane? Because Kash Patel really believes that everybody's buying this. Now, don't get it wrong. Some people are. Some people who are party loyalists or they think Trump can't do anything wrong, they're buying it. I know because I saw people do it when Biden was president. Some people were just like, Biden, oh, I'm a party loyalist. Biden can't do anything wrong. And that's a big part of the problem. As people start to move away from the parties, you will see a lot of things change. But we are living in crazy times, you guys. Crazy times. Let's get to some of the comments here, ladies and gents. I am shiny tonight, and I'm sorry. It's humid. It is humid. I can't. Thank you for the super chat for sale. KK Kash Patel is there to do nothing and get cash. Thank you, B-Man. Stacy Plaskett used to work for Jeffrey F. Steen. Yeah, she did. She did. Thank you, Roger. All those 250 legislators are state legislators. Yeah. And I told you, this is how deep this goes, right? They're in local politics too. Thank you, Sparky. Great work as always, Sabby. Thank you. And thank you for this one as well. Whoever said Kash Patel looked like a cartoon hypnotist nailed it. Thank you, Kinman. Sabby is so cool. When she sleeps, sheep count her. That's a cute one. Rapunzel, many conservatives are starting to agree with Massey. Many also want AIPAC out of our government. Yeah, and that's something that Israel definitely does not like. Damon says trash Patel, and Delta says, I think Charlie Kirk was about to run for president in 2028. That's why they deleted him, because they knew he is the one who will stop Israel, stop him. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. And thank you, Cosmos. Thanks, Sabby. I hate that Cash guy. It's crazy stuff, you guys. Crazy stuff. Really quick, I do want to shout out patrons. Don't want to forget about you guys. Hey, hey, hey. Shout out to everyone who is a Sabby patron. Really appreciate you, fam. If you're interested in being a patron, I have 5 categories: Ultimate, Sabinators, Sabsters. They're doing the damn thing. Don't forget about those Sabbies. They not too shabby. And of course, we also have members. All of their names are listed here, and you can also see their names scrolling across the bottom of the screen there on the ticker. Sup. And we're going to give a shout out to new Sabby patrons. We call them newbies. Let's give it up for T.S., Christine Hernland, and Yvette Patterson. Welcome and thank you all. Hey, hey, hey. All right. I don't know where I got that from. I think it came from the TV show somewhere. Hey, hey, hey. Maybe it was What's Happening. I forget. Anyway, moving on with the theme tonight. Are they insane? This one is a big one. First and foremost, let me say this. Okay. First of all, I have never really been a fan of Jimmy Kimmel. I'm not really into late night talk shows, right? It's like I don't stay up to watch like Jimmy Kimmel or The Tonight Show and all the kind of things. Like as I got older, I felt like it was very repetitive. The host tells a couple of jokes. They have a musician and a couple of, Hollywood like stars come on and sit down and talk, right? So it's really interesting because when I was little, my grandma used to watch Johnny Carson. That was his name. And my grandma loved Johnny Carson. And it was kind of this little, thing between me and grandma, because my parents didn't like for me to stay up late. But whenever I hung out with grandma, I knew that I could. Grandparents are cool. Shout out to the grandparents in the house. I knew I could stay up, and we would stay up and we would watch Johnny Carson, right? So that was something I kind of did with my grandma. But as I got older, I just kind of fell out of late night like talk shows. So I don't usually watch them. And I didn't really find Jimmy Kimmel to be someone that was particularly funny, to be honest with you. That being said, just because I don't really find him to be funny, I don't think that people should be fired because of what they say. And here we are. We're back here again, right? So Jimmy Kimmel was just removed from his show because of the comments that he made about Charlie Kirk. And when I saw the comments, it's kind of weird to me because I felt like he wasn't really talking about Charlie Kirk. He was talking about how MAGA was responding to Charlie Kirk's death. Either way, we are seeing that cancel culture is on both sides. And I'll give you an example before we get into the clip here. When Dave Chappelle was making the trans jokes, does everybody remember this? A couple years ago, Dave Chappelle was making the trans jokes on his Netflix stand-up. There were calls from some, not all. I want to be clear here. There were calls from some to cancel Dave Chappelle on the left. And I remember specifically people on the right saying, Dave Chappelle is a comedian. You guys are being snowflakes. This is ridiculous. Jimmy Kimmel is also a comedian. And see, now you see it happening on the other side. So he's gone. And this really isn't about what he said in reference to Charlie Kirk. I'm going to show you, we're going to follow the money, and I'm going to show you what this is really, really about. Let's go ahead and bring in this clip here. Jimmy Kimmel is gonzo.
News, ABC has just announced here that they will be preempting the very well-known show Jimmy Kimmel Live indefinitely. That's confirmed by ABC, and it comes at a very tense time with many of the issues we've been covering tonight. There was a backlash on the right because Jimmy Kimmel, after the Charlie Kirk shooting, made the statement that he viewed, quote, new lows with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them, and with everything they can to score political points from it, end quote. I've just read part of what Jimmy Kimmel had said, which includes what sounds like an inaccurate reference to the shooter. We've followed, of course, that case closely on this broadcast. Andrew Weissman, DOJ and FBI veteran, is here with me. And I kind of want to start with saying this is a pretty big piece of news when you look at the backlash or punishment of speech, something we've been covering. Right. Also, I would say in a news broadcast, if that were on ABC, you would be probably expected to issue corrections or deal with any material that, deliberately or not, over time became inaccurate, right? I don't actually have the exact date of that statement. I just wanted to let viewers know that. And the FCC leader under Donald Trump had also publicly called for this outcome. So there's been both public but specific government pressure. Your reaction to this news?
Pause, because he mentioned FCC as well. So what they don't tell you in this segment is what Jimmy Kimmel said after he made those remarks. Right after he made those remarks, he made fun of Donald Trump. He picked on Trump. They were showing a video of Trump being questioned by a reporter about, how he's handling everything with the death of Charlie Kirk. And Trump's response was, we're going okay. And then he starts talking about redecorating or changes that they're making, in particular with the White House, which was a weird response to that question. And so, see, even here, this is what I was saying about corporate media. Even here, they don't give you that piece of information. I think that's important for people to know. He went directly from that joke into the one about Donald Trump. And you can find it online yourself. So see how they leave that out. So I really don't think that this is as much about Charlie Kirk as Donald Trump is trying to make it. I think the thing is he got pissed off about what Jimmy Kimmel said about him because of the answer that he gave the reporter when he was questioned about Donald Trump. And I told you guys multiple times, and I stand by this, I support free speech. And I know many years ago, I used to be one of those people. People can change. I used to be one of those people that used to say, oh my God, they shouldn't say that. Oh my God, no way. Don't say that. That's so offensive. I used to be that way. And then as time went by, I started to see just how that can slide down a slippery slope, and it can become dangerous. Because the thing is, we do have a First Amendment in this country, and it shouldn't be about whether or not you like what someone said. That's besides the point. You don't have to agree with them, and you can criticize them for what they said. But now we are entering this realm of, and I really don't like this realm of get rid of that person, cancel that person, fire that person. Oh my God, they said this, get rid of them. I don't like it. And people who are cheering this on, remember, it happens on both sides. Like I said, you cheer it on now, and the next thing you know, it happens on your side as well. So I don't agree with it. I think people should be able to say what they want. You don't have to like it. You ain't got to support it. You can criticize it. But when we get to this part where people are now being fired, and and I look at some other things that have been said. I look at things that have been said by politicians. You actually have a politician, again, named Randy Fine, who is calling to end all the children in Gaza, said, get rid of all of them, da-da-da-da. Like, where's that outrage? There are more people upset with Jimmy Kimmel, who I don't even think is that funny. That's the thing to me. There are more people upset with Jimmy Kimmel than they are with a politician who says, get rid of the Palestinian kids too. This is where we are now as a country, and it's scary times.
Well, one, it's worth taking a pause because we will learn more about exactly what the statements are and sort of how this came about. When I hear this, I divide it very much as you said. What has the government done versus what has a private actor like ABC done? So first, with respect to the government, that's where it's exactly the conversation we were just having with Katie. The government needs to be really respectful of different viewpoints, even when you think that what is being said is inaccurate or deplorable or both.
Okay, but see, that has to apply on both sides, because we also remember under the Biden administration, they were not pro free speech when it came to the Rona, when it came to the jab. They were not pro free speech about that. And this is what I mean when I say it's both sides. And ultimately, when you look at the censorship apparatus, both parties do want to censor us in some way, shape, or form. They can't just let us be. And to me, no, that's not American. That's not the American way. It's 2025. And you ain't got to like what people say. I'll be the first one to tell you. But this is getting ridiculous. And then we're going to get into the money, and I'm going to show you who's really making these decisions and why they are making these decisions. I'll let him go on for a little bit more here.
And so that to me is the more problematic thing, where you'd want to know exactly what were they doing, because you really are not supposed to engage in sort of viewpoint discrimination. Now, a private actor is a very different story. The private actor is entitled to voice their opinions and what they have to say. But a company can also have certain, restrictions on what they do. But again, news organizations, they both have to be accurate. They have to be fair. They, as you know, from time to time will issue retractions and corrections. But also news organizations should be the first to be defending the First Amendment.
Yes, and while we are just getting this is brand new. Yep. We know that Brendan Carr, the FCC chief, had talked about this and talked about potentially using government power and fines. He said they really should pull Kimmel. We've been covering what has been both the widespread condemnation of the terrible political violence connected to the Kirk shooting. At least the governor and others have discussed it in that manner. That case goes forward. But then you have the fact that Donald Trump has agitated against Jimmy Kimmel for years around the Colbert ending of that show, which the parent company said was a business financial decision. Trump darkly posted Kimmel is next. They have been feuding for years. And so even for those who might be very justifiably concerned about any statement or misstatement about that violence or Kirk, how do you view this from the oversight perspective of whether or not this has to also be reviewed for whether the government was trying to do the political bidding of the president to get rid of a critic?
Yeah, well, look.
Well, of course, but this goes so much deeper, Ari. This goes so much deeper. And this is what I want people to see. Again, like, this can happen to anyone. You don't have to like Jimmy Kimmel, but this could happen to anyone. Look at this. Trump floats pulling licenses if networks are against him after Jimmy Kimmel is suspended. Like, this is freaking insane. This can happen to anyone. And you may not be in media, but I'll tell you how they can come after you as well. If this kind of thing continues, highlight this part right here. The Federal Communications Commission chairman, Brendan Carr, earlier on Wednesday had hinted that the broadcast license of ABC, which is a subsidiary of Disney, was at risk if it did not take action against Kimmel. So the FCC is getting involved here. And by the way, that all started with Bill Clinton. See, this stuff goes back. There's a history here. The FCC basically came in and said, if they don't take action, your license is at risk. What in the hell is happening here? Are they insane? So you see, it's everybody's in this, and I want you to follow the money. Because I think you need to start. Let's start with Sinclair. Sinclair Broadcasting. Okay. So Sinclair says that Kimmel's suspension is not enough. They are calling on the FCC and ABC to take additional action. So you already got rid of the guy, but they want more. And I'm going to tell you about Sinclair and who they are in just a second. Sinclair is the nation's largest ABC affiliate group. You everybody see that? That's the largest ABC affiliate group. These networks are owned by other broadcasting networks. So if you go on here, it says Sinclair will not lift the suspension of Jimmy Kimmel Live on our stations until formal discussions are held with ABC regarding the network's commitment to professionalism and accountability. Sinclair also calls on Mr. Kimmel to issue a direct apology to the Kirk family. Furthermore, we ask Mr. Kimmel to make a meaningful personal donation to the Kirk family and Turning Point USA. What in the hell? This is insane. So now you want him to make a donation to something he don't even support? What? Guys, I have never, ever seen this type of reaction towards anyone else who has passed away in this country since I've been alive. I've never seen it, but it's not just about Charlie Kirk. It's not just about the death of Charlie Kirk. So you guys, Sinclair telling the FCC and ABC what to do. And then you need to know about Nexstar, because it's Nexstar and Sinclair. Nexstar and Sinclair are two of the largest station groups. They wield influence in ABC decision to pull Jimmy Kimmel in light of his Charlie Kirk comments. Nexstar owns The Hill Rising. Yeah, The Hill Rising, you know, the show that I think a lot of people think because it's on YouTube that it's independent. It's not independent. It's owned by Nexstar. I think Nexstar took over in the later years. When Crystal and Sagar were hosting The Hill Rising, it wasn't owned by Nexstar then. Nexstar. Yeah, we'll get into this a little bit more. So this here, this is like insane. The two largest station groups, Nexstar and Sinclair, wielded their influence over ABC's decision to pull Jimmy Kimmel from the show. Their announcements on Wednesday come amid the fear of the host comments about the suspect in Charlie Kirk's assassination, with the chairman of the FCC, which is Brendan Carr, threatening some kind of FCC action. Again, Sinclair Broadcasting Group is the largest of ABC's affiliate groups. Check this out. Both Nexstar and Sinclair have been lobbying the FCC over regulatory issues. Nexstar is the largest station group in the country. It also has a major merger before the Trump administration. You hear that? It has a major merger before the Trump administration. Its proposed acquisition of Tegna, creating a mega company with 265 stations in 44 states and DC, representing 80% of US TV households. So, conflict of interest. Does everybody see what is really happening? So, you have Nexstar, which basically has a merger in front of the Trump administration. So Donald Trump sees what Jimmy Kimmel says about him, doesn't like it, contacts Nexstar and says, pull the plug on this one. That is authoritarian behavior. And we are headed towards some dangerous, dangerous times. And of course, Nexstar is going to do it because they have a merger in front of his face that they want to work out. So once again, the money comes back into play. the money comes right back in. And there's more because, see, we're going to go a little bit deeper here. Nexstar made the announcement on their site. Nexstar ABC affiliates to preempt Jimmy Kimmel Live indefinitely beginning tonight. You see how quick the call went out? See that? Mr. Kimmel's comments. Let me make this bigger because they got this tiny ass font. Ain't nobody got time for that. Here we go. Mr. Kimmel's comments about the death of Mr. Kirk are offensive and insensitive at a critical time in our national political discourse, and we do not believe they reflect the spectrum of opinions, views, or values of the local communities in which we are located. That is coming from Andrew Alford, who is the president of Nexstar. Continuing to give Mr. Kimmel a broadcast platform in the communities we serve is simply not in the public interest at the current time. And we have made the difficult decision to preempt his show in an effort to let cooler heads prevail as we move towards the resumption of respectful, constructive dialogue. All about the money. Don't forget Nexstar and their relationship with Brianna Joy Gray. Remember, Bree was fired from Rising? She put this here and she said the billionaire-owned media company is ordering Kimmel to pay off the Kirk family if he wants his job back. Media CEOs are all willing to do Trump's bidding, so their mergers are approved by the FCC. So you basically have a pay-to-play deal happening here. Sure, we'll do whatever Donald Trump wants us to do because we want this merger and this deal to go through. And I say, for what? How many people are watching network television? Network television is dead. Okay? I can't remember the last time. Listen, with the exception of maybe sports, football game, basketball game. Other than that, I'm streaming, boo. I'll watch Netflix or Hulu or something like that, but I don't know what they're trying to revamp with network television, especially particularly for younger people. They're not watching that. But here we go. So again, Bree knows. Look, here's the screenshots here. Nexstar CEO praises Trump administration as local TV giant announces $6.2 billion merger with rival. This is all about money. And what's dangerous is that because you have this deal on the table, the president can just say to you, I want this done, and you do it because you want the deal to go through. All about the money. Let's flip back to Sinclair because I got to tell you something about them. Peep this, fam. Sinclair Media might have an agenda, but it supports Israel. See, follow the connection. Let's connect the dots here. And this is the part here that I want you to see. Hold on. Right here. In December 2017, they're talking about the op-ed here from Boris Epstein. Listen to what he said. Another of his op-eds read, recognizing Jerusalem as capital of Israel is the right move by President Trump, noting that Israel is the only true democracy in the Middle East. Its continued strength and survival are important to the United States, not just symbolically, but also in terms of America's national security. Epstein and Sinclair Broadcasting are friends of Israel. Now, this person who wrote this is also pro-Israel. You see this? Sinclair Broadcasting is a friend of Israel. And I'll show you just how much of a friend. Again, this is from their own website under investor relations. Sinclair partners with Megan David Adam for fundraising initiative to support of humanitarian services. Sinclair to donate $50,000 to relief efforts to provide emergency aid and medical supplies in Israel. Connect the dots. So Sinclair Broadcasting Company is pro-Israel. Everybody see the connection that's happening here. We told you that the narrative is very important for them, right? And so the most powerful tool out there is the media, and they're going to try to tackle that. That's where they're going to try to put their hands, right? Because that's the source of information. This is why I called out this merger, this thing that was happening between Barry Weiss and CBS. This is why I called it out, because I saw what was happening. So all this to say that there is money behind this, that there is an agenda. And a lot of people don't have time to do the research. A lot of people don't have time to look for this information that I looked for. A lot of people just getting up, trying to go to work, get the kids in the bed, get back up the next day and do the same thing. They don't have time to look for it. So if the message that is presented in front of you is he made these comments about Charlie Kirk's death and that's why he was fired, a lot of people don't have time to look more into it. But then that's where independent media is supposed to come in and provide more information that corporate media omits. And I always tell you guys with this particular show, my job, I feel as though, is to tell you what they are leaving out. Now, Jimmy Kimmel is gone. But I just want to remind everybody, it was just a couple days ago that Brian Kilmeade on Fox News made horrific comments about homeless people. And by the way, the person who posted this, Carmine, said people going off on Brian for his comments on the homeless need to see the full context. So it's funny because the comments in the section here, the comments say that this doesn't make it any better. Look at this. Sorry, I'm a conservative Republican and this is unacceptable. Here's another one. Sorry, I'm a conservative. I listened to the entire thing live. Brian was wrong and needs to go. We can't be hypocrites. And you'll see that going all the way down for the comments. So here's the full thing here. He still has a job.
Fiction they go through.
If they've been in court 14 times, committed crimes 14 times, I'm sorry, they need to be in prison because this guy's an evil person. To be able to just go up behind someone and do that, a stranger, a complete stranger who had been working on this train and do that is not something that we can wrap our heads around because it's something that most people wouldn't ever do. But if you're evil enough to do this, you need to be behind bars. And it was up to these judges and the justice system to say, okay, you've been arrested 14 times. I think that's enough. We need to get you off the streets. And his mom was begging for it. And his stepbrother or half brother was agreeing with the mom saying this guy needs.
They are referring to the black guy that killed the Ukrainian woman on the bus. The guy was mentally ill. That's what they're talking about. But wait for it.
Be behind bars.
We don't have to. We feel so compassionate because you see the mental health crisis happening.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's not our job. We shouldn't have to live in fear while they figure out what's going on right there.
Right.
Put them in a mental institution, put them in a jail, and you guys figure it out. But people having to duck and dive on the trains and the buses, walking through the street. This is one case, but this is happening all across the country, and it's not a money issue. They have given billions of dollars to mental health and the homeless population. A lot of them don't want to take the programs. A lot of them don't want to get the help that is necessary. You can't give them a choice. Either you take the resources that we're going to give you, or you decide that you're going to be locked up in jail. That's the way it has to be now.
Or involuntary lethal injection or something. Just kill them.
Yeah, Brian, why did it have to get to this point?
Did everybody hear what he said? He still has a job. This is Brian Kilmeade over here on the right.
Up in jail. That's the way it has to be now.
Or involuntary lethal injection or something. Just kill them.
Yeah, Brian, why did it have to get to this point?
Right. I would say this.
Now, from what I understand, I believe he had to issue an apology. He still has a job. And he's still there because he's playing the game. He's still there because he's playing that game. And also he's on Fox and Trump likes Fox. This is the hypocrisy. This is why I say, and I continue to add this over and over again, cancel culture exists on both sides. But when you look down, like deep down into it, and you start to follow the money, then you start to see the real reason why Jimmy Kimmel was removed. And for people who come to me and tell me it doesn't happen on both sides, I just want to remind you what happened during the Biden administration. Let me make sure I have that video. I had the video. I don't know what happened to it. Oh, Eric, can you find the video? I want to show you the video, guys, because it's even more powerful of Sam Husseini. Maybe I can find it over here. Because I'll never forget this. Oh, I think I might have it. Yeah, I got it. Sorry about that, guys. Yeah, here it is. I want to show you this because like, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to forget this, and you shouldn't forget it either. This is what I mean when I say they, hold on. All right, here we go. It happened under both administrations, but it happens on both sides. Does everybody remember this? Let's go ahead and bring this in here. This happened under the Biden administration. They did this to a journalist.
Get your hands off me. Get your hands off me. Get your hands off me. Answer a damn question. I'm asking questions after being told by Matt Miller that he will not answer my questions until I'm asking questions. Oh, respect the process. Respect the process. Well, everybody from Amnesty International.
No greater pleasure in this job than crossing off the list I carry in my pocket the names of those who've been arbitrarily detained, unfairly held hostage, unjustly held hostage, and bringing them home, returning them to their families, returning to their loved ones. Finally,
get your hands off me. 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 Answer a damn question. Do you know about the Hannibal Directive? Do you know about Israel's nuclear weapons? Everybody from the ICJ. I was sitting here quietly, and now I'm being manhandled by 2 or 3 people. You pontificate about a free press? You pontificate about a free press? You are hurting me. You are hurting me. You are hurting me. I'm asking questions after being told by Matt Miller that he will not answer my questions until I'm asking questions. Wasn't the point of the May 31st statement to block the ICJ orders? You blocked the ICJ orders.
Please, sir, respect the process.
Oh, respect the process. Respect the process. Well, everybody from Amnesty International. From Amnesty International to the ICJ saying that Israel's doing genocide and extermination, and you're telling me to respect the process. Criminal, why aren't you in The Hague?
That was during the Biden administration. And he's not the only one it's happened to. They dragged a journalist out. So when it comes to the censorship, this is why I say this happens on both sides around different issues, but it happens on both sides. How are we going to fix this? This is why when Julian Assange was still in jail and people said, stop talking about Julian Assange, don't mention him. This is why I participated in protests for Julian Assange. This is why I advocated for Julian Assange. This is why when Julian Assange's brother and father came to the US, I met with them and sat down and had a conversation with them and interviewed them. The reason why I advocated for freeing Julian Assange is, number one, I didn't think it's a crime for journalism. I don't think journalism is a crime. And 2, if they would do it to him, what do you think they would do to us? Something to think about. Let's go to some of the comments here. Eric, we can go to the part 2 of Type VNC. Thank you for the super chat, Roger. 38 states pass anti-BDS laws, now going federal. Oh, wait, no, that's a bad thing. Anti-BDS laws? Pass anti-BDS laws, now going federal. I have to look into that. Yeah, Malty said he made fun of Trump. Yeah. Yep. SB said this isn't a partisan issue. They all just want control over us. Yes. SB gets it. Thank you, Dre. I demand a Sabby and Candace episode. Why, Dre? Why do you want this so badly? Why? Thank you, Sparky. Seems like the Trump admin, excuse me, is the same as the Biden admin. They have the same characters, but have different actors playing them. Probably because both admins are run by the same establishment. Hey, they have some of the same donors. Thank you, Victor. Let it be known, though, whatever elections or who the U.S. puts in charge cannot be trusted in the world stage. Yeah, let that be known. JB said, but Brian Kilmeade gets a pass. Yep. After calling for the involuntary euthanasia of homeless people before a homeless camp mass shooting, the hypocrisy is to the stratosphere right now. Thank you, Victor. America is the only country that celebrates their criminals since the Wild Wild West era. Not surprised, their forefathers were criminals themselves, tax evaders and smugglers. Well, damn, Victor. Thank you, Dre. 2 people stabbed in San Francisco this week. That doesn't surprise me. And thank you, Sparky. President Trump may have been the only TV audience member Kimmel had. No shade or anything, but I literally was like, who's watching this stuff? Because I ain't watching these things. Let's get the comment on Rumble. Thank you. Hey, goodbye. Thank you, Mark Pugsley, for the tip on Rumble. Sabby, the rock star is Bono. Ooh. Silence. Okay, that is interesting. If you haven't done so, folks, I said smokes. If you haven't done so, folks, please be sure to smash the like button. Thank you very much. We are moving on. All right, quick announcement, and we have 2 more stories for you. We are getting close to our fundraising goal for my documentary. It's called Remove Black Erasure in Boston. The goal is 10,000. We're at 9,361. This money goes to the editor. We are paying him. That's where that goes. We actually have the trailer here. I'm going to show it to you guys. And we'll put the link in the chat for those who want to contribute. But we are almost there. Just like a Care Bear. Everything's a Care Bear. All right. And if you, ladies and gentlemen, live in a place where there has been gentrification, you definitely are going to want to see this because it's a big problem. And it's been a problem for quite some time. All right. So here is the trailer for the documentary. Yes, Boston is home to winning sports teams and elite universities. But some might say that there are 2 Bostons.
If you look at City Hall, no one's talking about that specific racial and historical component that Black people are the ones that are being removed.
There's a huge, significant difference in lived experiences, and we know this because of the wealth report. We're at $8.
This whole plan of gentrification isn't a new concept. In every city you go into in the Northeast, they kept moving Black people out of the inner city. So it's a plan. It's been in place for a long time.
While the displacement isn't as bad as 1963, it hasn't gotten much better now.
It's by design that they've created spaces where we are no longer seen anymore. They're wiping us out one community at a time, and they're getting away with it. This is gentrification. Franklin Park has been a place where we have built community, and all these things are at risk.
Why is the mayor willing to throw herself on this sword, do or die, for this project? It's not about soccer. It's about the additional profits that can be made in this entertainment complex. It's a disrespect that you would take public parkland and then give it to a private group to control it. And this project is Emmett Till's mama pulling back a curtain. And if people don't look at what's behind that curtain, it's coming to them.
All right, that's the trailer there. Eric, if you can put the link in the chat for people who may want to donate. I'm super excited, guys. We're looking for premiere November. So I'm excited for that, early November. So we're making good time, good time. Let's get to this story, this insane story, guys. And I tell you, I waited to cover this one because I was like, So if you have not heard by now, Trey Reed, a student at Delta State University, was found hanging from a tree on campus. And I'm glad I waited a little bit later to cover this story because more information has been revealed about how the police handled this particular situation. And now that more information has been released, it seems as though there may be some kind of cover up going on here because the police gave two different accounts. One account, according to the family, was that Trey Reed was found in his dorm room dead. But another account that was given to the family, which is the one that holds because people saw him, Trey Reed was found hanging from a tree on campus. So the question I want you to ask yourself as we play a little bit of investigative, little investigation here ourselves, let's play detectives ourselves. How is it that Trey Reed was found dead in his dorm room and also found dead hanging from a tree? Which is it? And why did the police give the family two different stories? Let's get into it, folks. A lot of people are talking about this. I feel like there should be more outrage about it, but this is America. Here we go.
Authorities say the body of 21-year-old Demartravion Trey Reed was found hanged from a tree by a faculty member near the pickleball courts. Word spread quickly throughout the Cleveland campus, leaving students and others concerned and worried.
Well, because I am a Black student, hearing that happened to another Black student, it really made me feel, it's make me feel unsafe.
I do have to walk to class, and I like to go walk on the track, and it would be happy to know like what happened.
Local and state investigators immediately started looking into the incident. DSU Police Chief Michael Peeler says investigators found no evidence of foul play.
But pending an investigation, further investigation, and also from the medical examiner's office, we won't have more information until that part has been done.
And
now hold on to that guy. Hold on to him, okay? This is in Mississippi. I got some stories to tell you. Let's continue.
Members of Reed's family are insisting on a thorough investigation.
Please, 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 please do your research on this. Do not let them sweep nothing else under the rug. Enough is enough.
Why did he say that? Let me go back a little bit. Why did he say don't let them sweep anything under the rug?
Enough is enough.
You know why? Because it's been done before. Let me tell you something. I've lived down south. I lived in Georgia. I lived in South Carolina, North Carolina, or Massachusetts now. I've lived in different places, but I never lived in what we call the deep South. You know what I'm talking about? The deep South I consider to be Mississippi, Louisiana, Arkansas, like that, Alabama, that section there. I've never lived there, but I done been there. And let me tell you something. There have been stories for years of Black men in particular just gone missing. Just boop, 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 bye. Where'd they go? What happened to them? And nobody seems to know anything. There have been a number of stories, and you're going to see just how many Black men have been found hanging as well. This is not a new thing. And some people, the way that they've been talking about this to make it seem like, oh my God, I can't believe a guy. And I'm talking about Black people too. Oh my God, I can't believe they found a Black guy hanging. Oh my gosh, what's going on? This has been going on for years, but these incidents aren't looked into far enough, or they start to look into it and then they just say, okay, whatever, this is done here. I warned you guys about the black twin boys in Georgia that were supposed to be headed to the airport to come to Boston, and they disappeared into the mountains and they found them dead. I warned you guys back then. I said, how they end up in the mountains where there's no cell signal when they were supposed to be going to the airport, and who was supposed to drive them to the airport? Notice how they just dropped that. You don't hear anything about it now. Let's go on.
University President Daniel Enos says the discovery left him heartbroken as he extended his condolences to Reed's family and friends. He added DSU would help students, faculty, and staff with the grief.
We thank you for watching and
Okay, now again, on campus, and let this be a message again to everyone, to students, if you're watching your student. I always used to tell my students this: college campuses are not safe either. Like you may feel like you're safe because you're there with a bunch of students and you're just like, whatever, this is school and we're all cool together. No, you still have to be careful on college campuses as well. Like, people get mugged on campus. These things happen, right? So let's get into this a little bit more. Like I said, this story is very strange. Family of a black student found hanging from a tree in Mississippi. They are demanding answers. So Trey Reed was 21 years old. 21 years old. Listen to this. Students had been back on campus just shy of a month when the body of Trey Reed, a 21-year-old black student, was found hanging from a tree on campus Monday. Reed's death has ignited calls for justice and online speculation that he was the victim of a lynching, even though authorities have said there was no evidence of foul play. Families of other black men who have been found hanging in Mississippi and were determined to have died by, they unalived themselves, are also questioning their official causes of death. Guys, this is what I was trying to tell you. Sorry, let me go back. This part right here. Families of other black men who have been found hanging in Mississippi. What the police oftentimes do with these incidents is they just write it off and say, oh, well, they just ended their own life. They don't look into it further. This has been a thing. And remember when they were trying to, like, Congress was trying to pass those anti-lynching laws and all that kind of stuff, which still there's no anti-lynching law passed or whatever. It's crazy that in 2025 you even have to do that. But this has been happening in Mississippi. This has been going on. And a lot of people don't know about it. Like I said, if you not living down there and stuff like that, a lot of times these stories are buried by the press. There should be a lot more outrage over this, but there isn't. Now it goes on to say here, and that's Trey Reed there. Again, a student. They say they believe their loved ones were victims of lynchings in a state with a history of racially motivated violence, including 1955 lynching of 14-year-old Emmett Till. Reed's family has not publicly commented on his death except through attorneys. Now let's fast forward to this part here. Now the family, they're demanding an independent autopsy. So Trey Reed's family calls for independent autopsy after he was found hanging in a tree. Police say video exists. Okay. Now let me tell you why they're asking for this, right? So the story that the police gave has changed, right? It says here, the family does not know exactly what happened on September the 15th of 2025. We are seeking answers from Delta State University. We're seeking answers from the coroner's office. Delta State University staff discovered Reed's body hanging from the tree at 7:05 a.m. Monday, September 15th, in the middle of campus, where the 21-year-old had just begun attending college. So right there in the middle of campus for everybody to see. Hours after his discovery, Delta State University Police Chief Mike Peeler said in a press conference that no foul play was currently suspected. So let me get this straight. Okay. College campuses have cameras. I worked at university for 10 years. College campuses have cameras. They have cameras all around campus. You may not see them, but they're there. So surely those college cameras should tell us exactly what happened, right? Wouldn't that have been the first like measure from the police? Let's check the cameras. And now they're saying that video does exist. Why wasn't that? If the video does exist, then that means that they have seen the video. If they've seen the video, why did the police tell the family two different versions of the story? Goes on here. Listen to this. The same day, two officials from the Bolivar County Coroner's Office said Trey Reed had no other visible injuries that would indicate an attack prior to this hanging. Okay, but that doesn't mean he wasn't hung. Listen to this part. The media knew before the family did. Vanessa Jones criticized Delta State University and Bolivar County officials, telling the Mississippi Free Press that both had left the Reed family completely in the dark after the discovery of Trey Reed's body, failing to properly communicate with them in their darkest moment. This is another thing I find strange. They contacted the media before they contacted the family. Weird. The media, the lawyer said, knew about Trey's death before the family did. That's one of the reasons for the urgency of this press conference, because the family is getting all of the information secondhand through the news. And a confusing incident occurred the morning of Trey's death. The Grenada County Sheriff's Department arrived at Trey's family home approximately at 9:15 and informed the family that Trey was found dead in his dorm room in his bed. Now, hold up. How was Trey found hanging from a tree and also found in his dorm room dead? So the police have two different stories that are going around here. In this press conference, which you are going to see, he is questioned about that. This officer here, who announces to everyone that he was the second person on the scene. He said, I was the second officer there. He says this proudly. Listen to what he says about two different stories from the police.
An effort of Delta State Police, Cleveland PD, Bolivar County Sheriff's Office. Yes, did we lay eyes on the student? I did. I was there. I'm one of the first on scene. And then again, it's an ongoing investigation.
You're asking my question, and you're including all these different agencies. I'm asking about you, the head of the office.
Again, I was there. I was the second.
So everybody hearing, he was there.
The officer from my department on the scene.
Yesterday, Trey's grandfather said that the first call he received, the officer told him that Trey was found in his room. But then the next call he received, and I'm quoting him, they said he hung himself. Can you explain that discrepancy?
Yeah, I don't have any knowledge of any calls that the grandfather received. I know I did speak to the grandfather or the next of kin, and outside of that, I can't answer what calls he received and who he received them from.
Pause. We got a problem, ladies and gentlemen. Because now, once again, these are two different stories. So the police officer who was the second one on the scene tells you he can't tell you anything about a call that the grandfather received that said he was found dead in his dorm room. A call. When we go back to this article, Grenada County Sheriff's Department arrived at Trey's family home at approximately 9:15 and informed the family that Trey was found dead in his dorm room in his bed. Ladies and gentlemen, we got a problem, boo. We have arrived. They arrived at the home and we have they called the home. Which one is it? Or did they do both? If I could speak to this police officer face to face, I would just look at him and say, you know you done fucked up, right? These are two different stories, and somebody's hiding something. Somebody is not telling the full truth here. It does not make sense to me. You can't be dead in the dorm room and also dead hanging from the tree unless somebody moved you from your dorm room to the tree. Either way, campus cameras should be able to catch all this. 2, they're talking about a phone call that was made to the family, but the article says that the police arrived at the family home. So which one is it? Something isn't right. Something is really fishy with this story. Let me let him go on just a little bit more.
Any videos exist? There have been reports of alleged videos.
There are videos, and they're in the hands of the investigative team. Right now, Cleveland PD is leading the investigation. This is our investigation, but they're leading in the investigation.
So there was surveillance video that captured what happened to Trey on campus at the time of his death?
I can't speak at that at this moment. Again, there is video, but it's still, the investigation is ongoing.
There's still video, but the investigation is ongoing. There was a movie called Menace to Society, and that's where I get that line from. The actor, I think his name is Bill Duke. He was in the interrogation scene when he was questioning not Trey. It was it Trey? Yeah, character Trey. And Trey couldn't get his story straight. And he said, first you said you went to the store. Now you say, and he spoke so slow and calm when he said it. Other people can imitate this better than me. But my favorite part was when he said, you know you done fucked up, right? But this particular story here, ladies and gents, it don't make sense. Why did the media know before the family? Why did the police tell the family that he died in the dorm room? And then also tell him that he was found hanging from a tree? Where is the video, which he says does exist? Did the campus cameras, catch what happened here with the video? Did they catch anything? The cameras on campus? And more importantly, I don't know. Guys, I'm telling you, look, I went to college. I worked at universities. And I'm just here to say, I find it very hard to believe that no one saw anything. You have kids walking around on campus all different times, like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, especially if they out partying late at night, etc. But considering that Mississippi has a history of this is something that people do need to pay attention to. I told you this is not new. As you can see over the years, Black people lynched in recent years, 10 deaths that shook the nation. This article came out September 17, 2025. We're just going to name them. Of course, Trey Reed is the first one here, right? A lot of people don't talk about this stuff, but it happens. Yvonne McGee. Let me make this a little bit smaller there. There we go. Yvonne McGee. He's the one where a truck driver, he was a truck driver and he was found dead September 11th, 2024. Henderson, North Carolina. Trevante Jamal Sherbert Helton, 29 years old. He was found hanging from a tree in Swallow Creek Wildlife Management Area in Hiwassee, Georgia. Denoris Richardson, and as you can see, he had, a family. He was found hanging in an abandoned house in Colbert County, Alabama. Anybody noticing a pattern here with these incidents? Where are they found at? Pay close attention. Here's another one. Dominique Alexander. See, people don't talk about this stuff. He was found, this is the different location, found hanging in Fort Tryon Park in New York City. Robert Fuller, he was found hanging from a tree in Poncetlon Square in Palmdale, California. Malcolm Harsh, he was found hanging from a tree in Victorville, California. Earl Smith, they don't have his picture, but he was found hanging from a tree in Albany, New York. And with a lot of these cases, the police ruled it as they unalived themselves. That's been the ruling. Yolna Lubrin, I remember this one. She was found hanging from a tree in Orlando, Florida. I covered this story. This was 2023. Right? Amari Bryant, he was found hanging outside the Southern Pines Inn in Homerville, Georgia. The Mississippi suspected lynchings. Here, at least 8 Black people have been lynched in Mississippi since 2000. These stories need to be covered more. And a lot of people don't talk about it, and including in independent media. They don't even cover this stuff. It's like they don't even want you to know about it. They don't give a damn. And I just say, like, to the police officers, again, a lot of those incidents, they just ruled it as, oh, well, they took their own life. Even after family members asked them to look deeper into it. This is a pattern. And you may wonder, well, the police, are they insane? No, they just don't give a damn. Got to pay attention, folks. We got to pay attention to what is going on out here in these streets. Okay, let's go to some of the comments and then we'll get to the final story. Thank you, Mark. Sabby, Candace hates communists. I don't know why you want this to happen, Dre. Dre says Candace and Sabby equal because you're polar opposites. Yet currently you share a ton of overlapping agreement. Oh, Dre. Thank you, Kenman. I think the rock star is Dr. Shiva. It's funny. James says, thank you. My grandpa let me stay up for the Red Skeleton show. Interesting. Thank you, Sparky. Will President Trump win the Nobel Prize in genocide? There you go. Thank you, Courtney. Also keep in mind that Jimmy was getting paid $16 million a year and his show ran on a $100 million budget. This is the perfect scapegoat to use to get rid of Jimmy. That's true. Yeah, Damon said those Mississippi police are dirty. Yes, they are. Thank you, Russ, for the super sticker. And thank you, Christian. Sabby, when I was in the Navy station in Mississippi, the brothers told me stay over here with us because people here go missing or pop up hanging trees. What I tell you guys, thank you, Dre. They found a whole mass grave in Mississippi 2 years ago. Thanks, Frank. Love from Canada, Sabby. You are welcome. Thank you, Mystical. Tell me why you didn't like your song, The Sabby Sabs Show. You didn't like your song? I don't know what that is. I don't know what that song is. But thank you. And thank you, Kenman. Too many F words in Minister Society. That is true. Don't watch that with the kids. For those of you who maybe I should check that movie out. Don't watch that one with the kids around. All right, ladies and gents, we hit to our final story here. We're in the final story. Yes. Tucker Carlson seems to be turning on the Trump administration. He said some things publicly on his own show. And of course, this does have to do with the death of Charlie Kirk. You see, all this censorship that's happening now, it appears that Tucker Carlson doesn't think that Charlie Kirk would have appreciated that. Tucker Carlson feels as though this administration is trying to implement laws and rules by using Charlie Kirk's name for something that he would not have supported. Let's go ahead and get into it, folks. You know it's bad if you know it's bad when Tucker is like, what the hell are you doing?
But for a lot of people, particularly those who are just repeating what they think they should say or responding to the momentary rage of the moment, they just throw stuff out. And we've got to hope that the Attorney General of the United States, Pam Bondi, is in that category. She said this just yesterday. Watch.
There's free speech and then there's hate speech. And there is no place, especially now, especially after what happened to Charlie in our society.
There's free speech and then there's hate speech. This is the Attorney General of the United States, the Chief Law Enforcement Officer of the United States, telling you that there is this other category called hate speech. And of course, the implication is that's a crime. There's almost no sentence that Charlie Kirk, and I'm not running the risk of appropriating his memory for my own ends by saying this, it's provable. There's no sentence that Charlie Kirk would have objected to more than that. And you've got to think the Attorney General didn't think it through and was not attempting to desecrate the memory of the person she was purporting to celebrate, that she just threw that out there, that she hadn't thought about it. You hope that. You hope that Charlie Kirk's death won't be used by a group we now call bad actors.
This part to me was kind of funny. I mean, he's speaking the truth here, but it reminds me of, I had a teacher that used to do this, and she would look at us and say, I would hope that you did your homework already and you're surely not trying to do it in homeroom. And it's that, you know, that type of saying and that tone that basically is it's kind of the nice way of saying, you probably doing this, but you know you shouldn't have, right? Yeah. Look, we've seen quite a bit happen over the past couple of days where it does seem like certain people, and Donald Trump too, within the Trump administration, they are trying to use Charlie Kirk's death as a way to censor people more. Donald Trump just filed to consider Antifa to be a domestic terrorist organization, but he won't file for the KKK to be a domestic terrorist organization. Let that sink in. Everybody see how this game is played? So it's like they are using his death to just basically seriously just tear everything down. And what I said before about the censorship, that doesn't just apply to people on the left. That impacts everyone. You think right now, okay, well, he just said this about the news and the media and all that type of stuff. What do you think is next? Protest, what you can and can't say at your job. Hell, even if you just make criticism in public. What do you think is next? Don't be surprised if it doesn't make its way to Hollywood. You can't make that movie because it's negative about such and such. How dare you make a movie that critiques Israel? Hollywood, music, it can easily spread. Let's continue.
To create a society that was the opposite of the one he worked to build. You hope that. You hope that a year from now, the turmoil we're seeing in the aftermath of his murder won't be leveraged to bring hate speech laws to this country. And trust me, if it is, if that does happen, there is never a more justified moment for civil disobedience than that, ever. And there never will be. Because if they can...
Did you hear this? Let's go back.
No sentence that Charlie Kirk, and I'm not running the risk of appropriating his memory for my own ends by saying this, it's provable. There's no sentence that Charlie Kirk would have objected to more than that. And you've got to think the Attorney General didn't think it through and was not attempting to desecrate the memory of the person she was purporting to celebrate, that she just threw that out there, that she hadn't thought about it. You hope that. You hope that Charlie Kirk's death won't be used by a group we now call bad actors to create a society that was the opposite of the one he worked to build. You hope that. You hope that a year from now, the turmoil we're seeing in the aftermath of his murder won't be leveraged to bring hate speech laws to this country. And trust me, if it is, if that does happen, there is never a more justified moment for civil disobedience than that, ever. And
Oh, we do have to drop the beat. You hear what he said? He said civil disobedience. So Tucker Carlson is letting people know that if you guys continue with whatever the hell it is you're trying to do with censorship and going after the masses in this way, shape, or form, you are basically pushing people to the point of civil disobedience. We got to drop the beat for this one. Hey, dance with me. Dance with me. Drop the beat in the street. Woo! One day I will tell you guys the name of that song. Let's continue on.
never will be, because if they can tell you what to say, they're telling you what to think. There is nothing they can't do to you because they don't consider you human. They don't believe you have a soul. A human being with a soul, a free man, has a right to say what he believes, not to hurt other people, but to express his views. And by the way, that thinking, and not to pile on the Attorney General, who's a very nice person, but that thinking that she just articulated on camera there is exactly what got us to a place where some huge and horrifying percentage of young people think it's okay to shoot people you disagree with, to kill Nazis for saying things they don't like. Why do they believe that? How did we get here? Is it the video games? Is it the SSRIs? Yeah, probably. But what it really is 12 and then 16 years of indoctrination in our schools at the hands of people who tell them that, who say exactly what the Attorney General just said. Well, there's free speech, which of course we all acknowledge is important, so important. But then there's this thing called hate speech. Hate speech.
Pause here for a second, just to add to this here. It's not the video games. Someone tell Tucker I said it. It's not the video games. Those same video games are played in other countries throughout the world, and they don't have the levels of crime that we have in this country. It's not the video games. I know people want to point fingers at different things, but it's not. But what he's basically trying to say is that Pam Bondi, it seems like she's behaving the same way that conservatives criticize the left for behaving. And by the way, Tucker, is not a bunch of young people out here saying, let's go shoot all these people. That is not the case. A lot of times what you are seeing and hearing are the loudest voices. I can say the same thing for people on the right. A lot of times what we see and hear the most are the loudest voices. That doesn't mean that that's the majority. And people need to take that into consideration.
Of course, is any speech that the people in power hate, but they don't define it that way. They define it as speech that hurts people, speech that is tantamount to violence. And we punish violence, don't we? Of course we do. They've been taught that every year of their lives. And so naturally, most of them believe it. So when Charlie Kirk is shot in the throat with a 30-06 on camera, I doubt very many young Americans want to see something like that or actually applaud the death of a man, a father, a husband. But they
don't.
They've been told for their entire lives in schools exactly what Pam Bondi just told them. Well, there's free speech, but then there's also hate speech, and woe to those who engage in it because it's a crime. That's a lie. And it's a lie that denies the humanity of the people you're telling it about. And so any attempt to impose hate speech laws in this country, and trust me, there are a lot of people who would like them. There are a lot of people who'd like to codify their own beliefs by punishing those under the U.S. code who disagree with their beliefs. Any attempt to do that is a denial of the humanity of American citizens and cannot be allowed under any circumstances. That's got to be the red line. Because again, when they can do that, what can't they do? And this is
that part right there. This is what I was trying to tell people for the longest time. Listen, You don't have to agree with everything that someone says, right? I don't know what's going on with the shirt. Like part of it's like stuck and the other part's like not stuck. Sorry. You don't have to agree with everything that someone says. But the problem that people often run into is they'll say that they're pro free speech, but the moment someone says something that they disagree with, they're like, jail that person, arrest them, fire them, finish him. They want that person like gone, man. Like they want them out of here. They're like, get rid of them, get them out of the space, da 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 da. Then you're not really pro free speech. And some people say that, and they're really just pro free speech for the things that they agree with and what they support. And what he is saying is that Charlie Kirk, according to him, I mean, he knew him, would not approve of this. And this is what's happening right now. I told you guys, Max Blumenthal said it on Chris Hedges' show a couple of days ago. He said, once this is all, said and done, that they will come after Antifa next. And Donald Trump just did it yesterday. And that puts all the other groups on blast. Everyone, listen up for just a second. I don't care if you like these organizations or not. This sets a precedent. I told you, coming after Antifa, he'll come after them. The Black organizations, what's stopping them from going after ADOS organization, American Descendants of Slavery organization, NAACP, Urban League, Communist Party, Organization of America? What's stopping them from going after PSL, Party for Socialism and Liberation? You see, it always starts with one piece and then it goes further. And that's what I'm trying to wake people up to. Let's go on a little bit more here, and then I have more I want to show you.
Something, by the way, that Charlie thought about a lot and that I had occasion to talk to him about a lot. And I really don't want to make any of this about me because it has nothing to do with me. But I did have reason to have these conversations with Charlie a lot, many, many times over the past 3 or 4 months. And this began at an event that he held in Florida in July, the TPUSA MFest event, Turning Point event. I often go. I always have the best time. I always see Charlie ahead of time. We have a cup of coffee in a hotel room, we talk about what's going on. In addition to being, of course, a conservative advocate, he was also a conservative organizer and a coalition builder, and he was very involved in politics in a way that I'm not, so it was interesting as hell. But it was also a way to learn what young people are thinking about, talking about, because he was on college campuses all the time, and what is the state of a couple of big debates that are happening within the Republican coalition, particularly around foreign policy. And Charlie's views on foreign policy, which I think are fairly well known now, a lot of people lying about them, were evolving, but had really evolved. And who knows why he reached the conclusions he did. I think his Christian faith informed them mostly. It was also the experience of talking to young people, and his views were very much like theirs. He believed that the war on terror had been a net loss for the United States, and it caused incalculable damage, not just economic and physical damage, but spiritual damage to the United States. It was bad. We got nothing out of it. We were only hurt. And he didn't want to see that again. And he felt very strongly about that. And of course, I agreed. And so before that speech that I gave in July, we had a conversation about this backstage right before I went on. And I was fulminating and getting all red in the face like I often do, to my shame. And I was mad thinking about this and thinking about the effort by the neocons in the United States to draw us in to another forever war with Iran. Not a defense of Iran, of course. It's merely an acknowledgement that we've done this before. This happened in Iraq, which we entered into at the behest of those same foreign policy strategists, and it didn't work. And so I was going on at some length backstage with Charlie, and I said, probably not going to talk about that. I'm not going to torture you. I know your donors hate this when I say that. And also Epstein was in the news, and it was clear to me that, Epstein's probably not like a Mossad agent or something, but Epstein clearly had contact with Israeli intelligence and American intelligence and French intelligence, but the only one you're not allowed to talk about is Israeli intelligence. But it seemed true to me, and I had done some work on that. I knew a bunch of people pretty close to that story. So I thought that. And I said that to Charlie, and I said, but I'm not going to say that because I don't want to make your donors mad. I know it's just going to be like an endless flurry of text telling you to stop or you're going to lose a bunch of funding. And he looked at me, I'll never forget it, and said, go all the way. Do it. Go all the way. I said, man, a lot of things I can talk about. I don't need to talk about that. And he said, do it.
And that was the speech that we covered where Tucker Carlson was complaining about people not being able to afford a living, where he dove into Epstein and Mossad. That was over the summer when we covered that. And I was like, whoa, what is going on here? Like, are we living in the Twilight Zone, right? So Tucker obviously has seen more things happen behind the scenes. And speaking of that, because they really trying to silence people about this. I think they think the American people are really stupid. Some of us are. But the reality is everything is coming out in the open, right? Marjorie Taylor Greene just dropped the text message that she had received from Charlie Kirk. She said, Charlie Kirk invited me to speak at AmFest a few weeks ago before he was martyred. This was after I called for AIPAC to register under FARA and said that the nuclear-armed secular government of Israel was committing genocide in Gaza and killing innocent children, Christians, and people. He asked if I wanted to debate about AIPAC, but made it clear not against him. He said, we, him, TPUSA would do whatever I want on this issue. If you don't know who to believe Bibi Netanyahu, a foreign country's leader, or Charlie's personal friends, Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson. Here's the text message here. It says, you should speak at AmFest. Would you want to also do a debate about AIPAC, etc.? Not with me, no pressure. We'll do whatever you want. Candace did say that text messages will be, things will be coming out. But all the more reason, a lot of this has to do with Benjamin Netanyahu. I really do believe this guy right here is the real president of the United States, in my opinion. This is what I believe. He's the one that's making a lot of decisions and pulling the strings. And I think that some of the censorship that you're seeing that's coming down the lines as well, I think it is all him. He came out again to make another statement. Now ask yourself this, ladies and gentlemen, why does he care so much about American podcaster? Why does he care so much about an American podcaster? You don't see any other leader from any other country that's an ally with the U.S. doing this. So this is what Netanyahu had to say today.
Joseph Goebbels, the Nazi propaganda minister, said that the bigger the lie, the faster it will spread. Well, somebody has fabricated a monstrous big lie that Israel had something to do with Charlie Kirk's horrific murder. This is insane. It is false. It is outrageous. Charlie Kirk was a giant, a once-in-a-century talent who defended freedom, defended America, defended our common Judeo-Christian civilization. Charlie loved Israel. He loved the Jewish people. He told me so in a letter that he sent me just a few months ago. One of my greatest
Nope, he's bringing up that letter again that you will never see.
joys as a Christian, he said, is advocating for Israel and forming alliances with Jews to protect Judeo-Christian civilization. He encouraged me to make the case directly to the American people about how vital Israel is to U.S. national security. He told me, the Holy Land is so important to my life, it pains me to see support for Israel slip away. Now, if Charlie disagreed with a policy of mine or a decision here and there, not only did I not mind, I welcomed it. This is the essence of Charlie. This is the essence of a free country. It's exactly what Charlie stood for.
Again, why is this dude so invested in an American podcaster? Why is Netanyahu going on these podcast tours, going all this stuff, going out of his way?
And I knew that his suggestions always came from the heart, from his love for Israel and from his love for the Jewish people. A few weeks before his death, I spoke to Charlie. I invited him to visit Israel again. And sadly, that won't happen. Now some are peddling these disgusting rumors, perhaps out of obsession, perhaps with Qatari funding. What I do know is this. Charlie Kirk was a great man, and a great man deserves honor, not lies. Rest in peace, Charlie Kirk. May your memory be a blessing.
Honey, you guys don't find this to be very strange? This guy is going too much out of his way. Too much out of his way. And very interesting, he continues again to say that he invited him, but he doesn't tell you that, according to Candace, he turned it down. And Candace said something else here too that I want to show you guys. Listen to this.
Okay, I can tell you that. You're either going to take being kicked in the chest, okay, and told get out, and then suddenly they're all communicating behind your back. And just where he talks about that article, something goes out and suddenly it's like, what's going on? They're like trying to make you think you're going crazy because you're saying some sensible stuff. Charlie was at that moment. He says that he is receiving messages calling him an anti-Semite. So how can you lie right now and dispute it? And better question, why are you lying? I don't like little lies. I'm being contacted by a lot of people that are telling me that just within 48 hours before Charlie passed away, his top Jewish donors were pulling funding from him, demanding that Charlie take their name off of the building that they had donated to Turning Point.
So we have buildings that have been donated, ladies and gentlemen. You see how all of this is coming out? Pulling their money back and saying, no, take our name off the building. We're pulling our funding from you. See all this stuff that's coming out in the open? I told you, always follow the money. Now, Benjamin Netanyahu isn't going to tell you that. And I have my criticisms. Listen, I have my criticisms of Candace Owens as well. I still, if I ever did have a conversation with Candace Owens, I would still ask her, like, why you say that shit about black people, man? Why you say this stuff about us, man? Like, let's just keep it real. Did Daily Wire tell you to do that? They encourage you to do that? Why you say that stuff? I would ask. But if I had to believe Candace Owens or Benjamin Netanyahu, who do you think I would choose to believe? The guy who continues to tell you that they're not killing any civilians? The guy who tells you that they're all Hamas? Or Candace? Think about that.
I guess I can figure out who that is, how many people could have donated a building. And then once Charlie was killed, they said, never mind, put it back on the building. Okay. Charlie himself had alluded to a tremendous loss of money coming in, and we'll speak about that more. More people are going to come out with information. This is all inevitable, okay? And I'll also point you in this direction. You guys remember Bibi recently was on a PR blitz, despite the fact that he was fighting this 96,000 front war because Israel didn't do nothing, okay? He was doing a ton of podcasts in America. He went on to Patrick Bet-David's podcast. He went on to Brandon Tatum's podcast. He went on to the Nelk Boys podcast. Anybody find it weird he didn't do Charlie Kirk's show?
Oh, if Benjamin Netanyahu was so close to him as he said that he was, that is a good question. Why wasn't he on that show?
Homie very quickly told us that Charlie was implied that Charlie was penning love letters to him in May. I just love you so much. It's amazing. They were so close. The boys just hits him up like, hey, I know we're fighting this 97,000 front war because we're always the victims, but do you want to just come and maybe stay at my place for the weekend here in Israel? Like, that's the vibe that Bibi was rushing to present to the media. So why didn't he do Charlie Kirk's show? I'll leave that as a question for you guys. Common sense, okay?
I think that's a good question to ask. Like, I really think they expect us to just fall for this narrative. By the way, I saw these so-called text messages that they said were written by Tyler Robinson, the suspect. And I said to myself, those do not look like text messages that came from a 22-year-old, but whatever's, right? Trying to find, I guess, as much as what they can. Like, again, no gun residue. Really weird. And then you have, this is all strange the way things are moving. Then you have Nick Fuentes, who is egging the censorship on. The same dude who said that he was against censorship is now supporting it.
Yeah, you better believe you're going to lose your social media. You better believe you're losing your job. You better believe you're going in a database. And as long as we are in power, we will make sure that you are penalized for that in society. That's what winning looks like. There's no substitute for victory. What do you think winning looks like? Yeah.
According to Nick Fuentes, censorship is winning. People are showing their whole ass. That's literally what we're seeing. Anything to maintain the partisan politics. I want to show you what some of that looked like, where Charlie Kirk apparently was giving different voices a microphone. Shout out to Max Blumenthal for this one. From the TPUSA Israel Focus Group, 1 week before the Hampton struggle session with Bill Ackman, Charlie Kirk's lieutenant, Andrew Colvett, appears nervous as AIPAC comes up. Colvett defended Ackman this week and welcomed 1 million via Ben Shapiro. I'll point out Andrew in this video. Watch this conversation take place. Listen to what's said.
How many of you guys think when a lawmaker and a man I respect like Ted Cruz uses the Bible to justify aid to Israel, doesn't even know the verse, do you guys think that's like not the best way to approach this? Raise your hand. Okay.
I think Ted Cruz used Genesis 12:3. I think a lot of people see that as off-putting when you look at the New Testament.
Why?
Because I think a lot of people, they look especially at the writings of Paul, where he talks about how the new flesh is not the same as the people in the old covenant. The new flesh is everybody, is everyone's included.
Talking about Romans 9.
Yes, 9:6, yeah.
Are you Catholic?
Converted.
So that's Andrew, the guy sitting right here in the middle, who's the way he's, kind of looking at the boy and he looks a little uncomfortable. That's this is Andrew Colvett.
Yeah.
Are you Catholic?
Converted Catholic from Judaism.
This is my next. Oh, from Judaism?
Yes.
Oh, wow. So you're you're ethnically Jewish.
Ethnically Jewish, yes.
And you have concerns about AIPAC.
Yes, I do.
I'm told that by some people that if I criticize AIPAC, I'm anti-Semitic.
I think it's ridiculous. Yeah. I feel like it's great to have a concern for your country.
Do you think that that AIPAC represents, again, I'm not saying I believe this, but I think this is what you're saying, that it represents a kind of cutting in line of prioritization away from the American people?
Yes.
Would you guys say that's a fair summary?
100%.
Meaning that, like, okay, we vote, we're citizens, but a separate group gets higher priority because of whatever reasons.
I never saw that video until today. Those are some of the conversations that were taking place, apparently as of more recent. You had a kid there who was Jewish, who was converting to Catholicism. We are experiencing a censorship industrial complex right now. And I was against censorship under Biden. I'm against censorship under Donald Trump. I don't give a damn. I think that people need to have free speech in this country, real free speech. I think we need to have a real First Amendment. And I continue to watch these things be stripped away. This right here shows you all the players, ladies and gents. House Speaker Mike Johnson held a private meeting with AIPAC and Jewish leaders on Wednesday on Capitol Hill, wherein he reportedly pledged to screen out isolationists. He pledged to screen out isolationist GOP candidates to prevent the wing of the party from growing larger in the House. You see this here? Everybody see what's happening here? Here's Mike Johnson sitting over there underneath the painting. So it kind of reminds me of when the Democratic Party goes after progressive candidates. Let's not let them win. Let's get them out of here, right? And now Mike Johnson apparently is trying to weed out those Republican candidates for the GOP. For people who continue and have told us don't focus on race, don't talk about said issue, they seem to be totally fine with focusing on one particular identity. And if you question them about that identity and their focus and support for it, they will smear you, cut you off if you're close to them. They will come after you with a full vengeance. And I don't know why more people haven't called this out years ago. Those of us in the Black community, we've been noticing this for a while. The same people who tell you don't talk about race, don't talk about said identity, are totally fine with focusing on one particular identity. And nobody called this out for the past, I don't know how many years. More people are getting into saying it now since October 7th. But for a lot of us in the Black community, we have noticed this for a long time. Now, it is not just about partisanship. Censorship impacts every single one of us. And for the clowns that I see on X who are cheering on censorship, is all fun and games until it hits you. All fun and games until it hits you. And I was really surprised, and shout out for those of you who sent me this, a number of you did. I was really surprised that Candace even said, this is not a partisan thing. Listen to this.
Wow, 260,000 people watching live, you guys. That is amazing. That makes me feel so good because I know that that number represents the people who are waking up. This is not left or right. I don't care. Do stop trying to make this a trans issue or right. That whole debate, it's low, guys. I'm telling you that is not where we need to be right now as a society. We are fighting evil people who rule over us and impact both sides. Okay, that's the wake up call. That's the wake up call we all need right now. And I hope that people are waking up to that fact as we look into what happened here. I'm
glad that that came from someone on the right. I'm so glad that came from someone on the right. Did you hear what she just said? This is not a trans issue. This is not a left-right issue. This is something that impacts every single one of us. That's what I've been telling you guys. Now, Candace has a way larger audience than I do, so I'm glad she said it because that message reaches a lot more people. All right, there was over 200,000 people something people watching her. So that message is going to reach way more people. So I hope all the people who are watching her really take that shit in. This is exactly what I've been saying. Free speech impacts everybody. And for all the crazy, feds and stuff that are online that were criticizing activists that were protesting to free Julian Assange, you guys know what I'm talking about, those weird ass accounts. Guys, if we don't have speech, we don't have anything. Do people realize that? Do people realize that if they will imprison a white Australian man for doing journalism, if they will throw him into the prison for that, what do you think they would do to you? And that's the message I tried to get across to people. That's why I supported freeing Julian Assange. And I'm glad Julian Assange is free, but that should have never happened in the first damn place. And this is what I'm warning people about. Edward Snowden warned you. Julian Assange warned you. If we do not have free speech, we have nothing. We will just be a society of people walking around, not saying much. Everyone just walking on eggshells, afraid that what they would say would offend the wrong person, jailed for speech, beaten for speech, punished for speech, silenced for speech. That's not the kind of country I want to live in. And I don't think you want to live in that kind of country either. So regardless of your political ideology, this particular issue right here, censorship, will impact every single one of us. And I 100% hope that you will share this message with your friends, with your family members, because once they cut off your mouth, there's nothing else left. Let's go to some of the comments here, ladies and gents. Thank you, Dre. That's what I'm saying, Sabby. The censorship and money trails. You and Candace are following the same scent. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Sparky. How about the Charlie Kirk Bill of Rights repeal amendments? Bill of Rights repeal amendment. Is that a new thing? I need to look that up, but I don't know if I saw that. It is. I know, Chris. Chris said, damn, Sabby, that's a big cup. It is a big. I like big chubby mugs. Thank you, Dre. Scam Bondi, Cash App, Paytel, Pete Hogsbreath, Krusty Noam, Tall Mud Ted, Marco Rudio. Oh my God, we need to screenshot this. We got to screen. Cash App, Paytel. Stop. Oh my gosh. Thank you, David. That level of movie censorship is already happening. The award-winning Israeli film The Sea is facing defunding. It's sympathetic to Palestinians. Man, I tell you. Thank you, David. Thank you, Sparky. What will President Trump think when he finds out that Antifa is a CIA, Five Eyes, Mossad, and their associated NGO operation? I don't know. I don't even think he would care. Thank you for sale. Did you see BB's nose growing to match his ears? Thank you, Majman. BB's guilty AF. Oh, as fuck. Thank you, Sparky. Remember, when dealing with gangsters, once you take the money, there's no giving it back. That's true. Thank you, Majman. Sabby Sabs is awesome. You should have at least 1 million subscribers. Hopefully the algorithm chills out. We need real unfiltered news. Oh, well, thank you. And thank you, Chisel. Sabrina, what is type DNC? Type DNC? I mean, Democratic National Committee? I don't know what you mean by type. Let's get the comment on. Oh, tight VNC. Oh, it's the system. It's the util system that we like when we bring people in and bring people out. Eric uses a util system for screen sharing. Yeah. Good question. Thank you, Mark, for the Rumble rant. Tucker gets dropped the beat. This is bizarro world. I know, right? Like when he's right, he's right. I don't agree with a lot of things he says, but when he's right, you know? All right, ladies and gents, that is it for me, guys. I will see you live on Sunday. I hope you guys have a great weekend. I'm out of here with my big cup. Have a good night. Keep up the fight.